If Ismael's line was rejected and illegitimate, why do biblical prophets speak of the glory of Kedar? Kedar was one of Ismael's 12 sons. His descendants became a powerful Arabian confederation, and the prophets don't condemn them, they honor them. Isaiah explicitly calls Kedar's flocks to come with acceptance to God's altar. This is blessing, not rejection. This is honor, not marginalization. The scribes tried to erase Ismael's legitimacy, but they couldn't erase every prophet. They couldn't remove every reference, and Kedar's glory remains in Scripture as permanent testimony. First, let's establish who Kedar was. Genesis 25 verse 13 lists Ismael's 12 sons, and Kedar is named second among them, right after Nebaioth, the firstborn. These are the names of the sons of Ismael: Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbil, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. The text explicitly calls them 12 princes according to their nations. Kedar wasn't some minor, forgotten descendant. His lineage became one of the most prominent Arabian confederations in the ancient Near East. The Kedarite were known throughout the region for their wealth, their vast flocks of sheep and goats, and their skilled archers. They controlled key territories in the Arabian Peninsula, the desert regions that would later be associated with Ismael's blessed descendants. They were traders, warriors, shepherds, powerful, prosperous, respected. Their territory was clearly located in Arabia, in the land of Ismael's inheritance. This is important. Kedar represents Arabian blessing, Arabian legitimacy, Arabian sacred geography. Now here's where it gets devastating for the supremacist narrative. The prophets don't just mention Kedar in passing, they honor him. Isaiah 60 verse 7 declares, "All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered to you. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister to you. They shall come up with acceptance on my altar, and I will beautify my beautiful house." Let's read that again. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered to you. Not condemned, not rejected, gathered. They shall come up with acceptance on my altar. Acceptance. God accepts their offerings. This isn't the language of rejection or illegitimacy. This is the language of blessing and honor. Notice something crucial. This isn't just Kedar mentioned neutrally. This is the flocks of Kedar, specifically identified, specifically called, specifically accepted. And the context? This is a messianic prophecy about the restoration and glory of God's house, about all nations coming to worship. And who is specifically named? Kedar and Nebaioth, the first two sons of Ismael. If Ismael's line was rejected, why would the prophets include his descendants in prophecies of restoration and divine acceptance? But it gets even more explicit. Isaiah 42:11 says, "Let the wilderness and its cities lift up their voice, the villages that Kedar inhabits. Let the inhabitants of Selah sing for joy. Let them shout from the tops of the mountains." This is a call to worship, a call to praise, a call to lift voices in joy and celebration. And who is called? The villages that Kedar inhabits. The inhabitants of Kedar's territory, the descendants of Ismael's son. Let them sing for joy. Let them shout from the tops of the mountains. This isn't condemnation. This isn't rejection. This is invitation to participate in worship, to join in praise, to lift voices to God. The prophet isn't saying Kedar is rejected, illegitimate, outside God's plan. The prophet is saying, Kedar, sing, Kedar, rejoice, Kedar, worship. And notice the context again. This is Isaiah 42, the servant song, one of the great messianic prophecies. Right in the middle of prophesying about the servant who will bring justice to the nations, the prophet calls Kedar to worship. If Kedar, Ismael's son, is called to worship in messianic prophecy, then Ismael's line has divine legitimacy. You don't call the rejected to participate in messianic worship. And if there's any doubt about where Kedar's territory was, Isaiah removes it completely. Isaiah 21:13-17. The oracle concerning Arabia. In the thickets in Arabia you will lodge, O caravans of Dedanites. For thus the Lord said to me, within a year, according to the years of a hired worker, all the glory of Kedar will come to an end. Notice, the oracle is concerning Arabia. The location is explicitly Arabian territory. And what does the prophet mention? All the glory of Kedar. The text itself connects Kedar with Arabia. The prophet explicitly identifies Kedar's territory as Arabian. This isn't speculation. It's stated directly in Scripture. And notice the phrase, the glory of Kedar. Even in a prophecy about judgment, the text acknowledges Kedar's glory. The phrase exists. The recognition is there. Arabian territory has sacred significance. Kedar has honor. The scribes couldn't remove this. They couldn't erase the geographic reality. Arabia and Kedar are biblically linked, and both are recognized in prophetic literature. So let's connect the dots. Kedar is Ismael's son, second among the 12 princes. Kedar's descendants become a prominent, powerful Arabian confederation. And the biblical prophets speak of the glory of Kedar, call Kedar's flocks to God's altar with acceptance, and invite Kedar to sing and worship. But it goes even further. The Bible doesn't just acknowledge Kedar, it honors him as a standard of beauty and dignity. Song of Solomon 1:5 says, I am black but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Think about what this means. The beloved, in one of the Bible's most poetic books, compares herself to the tents of Kedar, and this comparison is paired with Solomon's curtains. Kedar's tents are worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as the curtains of Israel's greatest, wisest, most glorious king. This is honor. This is recognition of beauty, dignity, and value. You don't compare yourself to something despised or rejected. You compare yourself to something admired, respected, worthy. And Jeremiah 49:28 lists Kedar and the kingdoms of Hazor, showing Kedar as significant enough to be named among kingdoms. Not just a tribe, not just a minor group. Kingdoms, plural. Kedar commanded that level of recognition. If Kedar, Ismael's direct descendant, receives this honor in biblical poetry, is called to God's altar with acceptance in prophetic vision, is compared to Solomon's glory in sacred song, and is listed among kingdoms in prophetic writings, then Ismael's line has divine legitimacy. If Kedar's offerings are accepted on God's altar, then Arabian territory has sacred significance. If Kedar is called to worship in messianic prophecy, then Ismael's covenant is ongoing, not rejected. This completely contradicts the rejected son narrative. You don't honor the descendants of a rejected line. You don't accept offerings from an illegitimate covenant. You don't compare to Solomon the tents of the marginalized. You don't call the rejected to participate in messianic worship. The prophets and poets couldn't be clearer. Kedar is blessed. Kedar is honored. Arabia is sacred. Ismael's line is legitimate. The scribes tried to marginalize Ismael. They slandered his mother, called him wild, downplayed his blessing, and tried to make Isaac's line seem exclusively legitimate. But they couldn't rewrite every prophet. They couldn't remove every reference to Arabian blessing. They couldn't erase Kedar from Isaiah without raising obvious questions. So these references survived, tucked away in prophetic books, easy to overlook if you're not looking for them, but undeniable once you see them. The glory of Kedar stands as permanent testimony in Scripture. Every time someone reads Isaiah and encounters Kedar's name, the evidence is there. Ismael's descendants were honored by the prophets. Arabian territory was recognized as sacred. The blessing extended beyond Isaac's line. This is what Jeremiah warned about. The false pen made it into a lie, but they couldn't erase everything. The truth survived in the prophetic witness. Remember the 12 sons pattern. Ismael had 12 sons who became 12 princes and 12 nations, the same divine structure as Israel's 12 tribes. Kedar was one of those 12, and the prophets specifically honor him. This proves the 12-son structure wasn't coincidence or mere genealogical record. It was divine blessing in action. God doesn't give the sacred 12 structure to a rejected line and then have his prophets honor one of those 12 sons. That would be contradictory. That would be God blessing with one hand and rejecting with the other. No. The 12 sons of Ismael mirror the 12 tribes of Israel because both lines received equal divine blessing, and Kedar's honor in prophecy confirms this. The structure proves the intent. The prophecy confirms the legitimacy. Kedar's glory testifies that Ismael's blessing was real, ongoing, and recognized by God's prophets. This is crucial evidence for our entire investigation. The scribes tried to create a narrative. Isaac chosen, Ismael rejected. Isaac's line blessed, Ismael's line tolerated at best. But the prophets undermine this narrative. When Isaiah speaks of Kedar's glory, he's validating Ismael's blessing. When he calls Kedar's offerings accepted, he's confirming Arabian legitimacy. When he invites Kedar to worship, he's including Ismael's line in God's redemptive plan. The false pen tried to divide Abraham's family into chosen and rejected. But the prophetic witness, which they couldn't completely erase, shows that both lines were blessed, both territories were sacred, both covenants were real. Kedar is Arabian. Kedar is Ismael's son. Kedar is honored by prophets. Therefore, Arabia is blessed. Ismael is legitimate, and the supremacist narrative collapses. Geographic evidence matters. Prophetic testimony matters. And Kedar's presence in Isaiah matters because it proves what the scribes tried to hide. God's blessing extended through both of Abraham's sons. The scribes couldn't completely erase what God had blessed. Kedar's glory stands as permanent testimony in Scripture. Ismael's line was blessed. Arabian territory was sacred, and the rejected son narrative is a lie. Isaiah called Kedar to God's altar with acceptance. That's not rejection. That's legitimacy. That's blessing. That's divine recognition. The scribes tried to hide it, but the prophetic witness survived. Next, there's more geographic evidence they couldn't erase. A valley of pilgrimage mentioned in Psalms. A name that sounds remarkably familiar. Baca and Mecca, the connection they desperately deny. If Kedar points to Arabian blessing, what does the Valley of Baca tell us about Arabian sacred geography? The evidence keeps mounting. The scribes couldn't completely erase what God had blessed. Kedar's glory stands as permanent testimony in Scripture. Ismael's line was blessed. Arabian territory was sacred, and the rejected son narrative is a lie. Isaiah called Kedar to God's altar with acceptance. That's not rejection. That's legitimacy. That's blessing. That's divine recognition. The scribes tried to hide it, but the prophetic witness survived. Next, there's more geographic evidence they couldn't erase. A valley of pilgrimage mentioned in Psalms. A name that sounds remarkably familiar. Baca and Mecca, the connection they desperately deny. If Kedar points to Arabian blessing, what does the Valley of Baca tell us about Arabian sacred geography? The evidence keeps mounting.